of our nurses or pharmacists, whoever's going to be dispensing this vaccine, has to be trained on the educational pieces of it. So we sent that out to all of our staff and the staff volunteering to help us out, just so they could speak more educated on it, because people do find out that they're going to be involved in a vaccine clinic and they do have a lot of questions on it. And the one thing that we want to make sure the public knows is that we are up to date on all of the latest happenings. So we get that, even though we're not going to get the Pfizer vaccine up front, we got that education out to them, had them attend all those different trainings that are happening. And then the same thing will happen with Moderna. So if the timeline follows the same suit as what happened for Pfizer, the Pfizer meeting happened on a Wednesday. It was signed, the order, by the FDA on Friday afternoon, very late in the day. The Moderna is happening on this Thursday, that meeting is. So either that order from the FDA will get signed off on Saturday. All of our educational materials and the EUA will be issued on Sunday. So then we'll be able to get that all out to our staff, have our forms and everything all ready to go. Shipment is supposed to happen on Monday. So our goal is to receive this by Tuesday and then be ready to go on Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll have those parts put together.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Doc. Thanks to your staff and all the people that are involved.
Well, I should say so. It's huge.
Anything else comes up, just let me know.
Thank you, Matt. Sorry, couldn't remember here. I forgot my name, password to the tablet.
We can borrow from casinos. I'm sure they lend it to us.
Sure. Okay, so next we have budget study session. DHS is first.
You okay if I just stay right here and won't mess up the camera? I don't want to cross-contaminate and go to new spots. So, well, first of all, two things. First, thanks for giving us a place to work. We appreciate it. We still need it. You know, we're over at the old Cogman Clinic building in Gainesville, across from the YMCA. And the other first thing is that Tom Boschka sends his apologies. The guy's on Zoom meetings all day. So I went to him, and he's in there with about 5 other faces looking at him, and he said, please send my thanks and apologies to the board. So there we go. This is way more mundane than what the other Matt had to say. This is just if you want just a bottom line, we're requesting our ask for out of the general fund is $289,300. That's $1,500 more than last year. They're just slight changes in the items. You know, this is what I guess we'd call a mature budget. It hasn't changed much. Nothing big has come up. When there are big kind of things, like we have a parking lot redone and resurfaced and then sealed, those come out of the buildings and grounds budget. And those guys, Jason and that group, continues to do a great job to make things work for us. But anytime we do have an expense like that doesn't come out of our budget, we make sure we capture that on a amortization schedule. So we have several going, one for a boiler repair, one for elevator repair. We're about to start a new amortization schedule for that parking lot. The ceiling bill didn't come till later. It was done in 2 phases, so we'll start a new schedule for that, which that speaks to the revenue side. So that's expenses. I don't know if you want to dig in any more deeply. I'd be glad to. If not, I'll hop to the top line. There is the revenue. And I'd like to underestimate that. I don't want to go too high and not hit the revenue number. You can see previously, the revenue for, the 19 to FY20, which of course is now well in the books, was 286,000. I probably only budgeted about 200 or 240. I don't have that. But no, budgeted 200, yeah, and then got, 280. So I don't want to look that bad at math, but part of it is we don't know. You get a number from that cost advisory services, and the same thing every year. As I sit here now, I don't know what the cost advisory services quarterly indirect rate is for 22 yet. I just don't. They haven't provided us with that number, so I'll know that later. So that 180, that's a low figure, and I know that. As long as we all know that, if you want to later in the year, we can amend that. Likely up, but you'll probably be able to tell, so you get quarterly checks from us, and those go to the treasurer's office. Not now directly, I used to have to walk them over, which I enjoyed doing, but now it just goes directly, so it goes there. So that's our, our revenue and expenses. The next line is shelter, that's if you flip over on page 2, that's an expense for the county. Again, that's asking us to look at how many kids will we have in shelter care, for which the county is responsible for part of it. That's, you guys pay just part, there's more that the state does pay. So, you know, I can't tell you right now how many kids we're gonna have, you know, sitting in a shelter in April of 22. So that's that. The 150, excuse me, is what I requested. Our high the last few years was 137. That's probably why we set it at 150. And FY20, we only spent 67, and so far this year we spent 24,000. So just, it's hard to say. Shelter is a bad outcome for kids. We don't want kids there any longer than they should be. We have special meetings when a kid's in shelters. Let's find a place for them that's better than that. I mean, they do a nice job at the shelter, primarily Children's Square, but that's just not a good outcome for kids. So it's a temporary stop. Other than that, I threw you a couple more pages. And one's this little teeny tiny print that shows over the last, I guess going back to FY15, what your expenses were for us, and then how much the reimbursement was. So I'm still shocked that we're showing green numbers. You know, this is not county shelter, but just the expenses to run our building and the reimbursements. You know, there's, up until this last year, there's been more in revenue than direct expenses. That started to happen in my small counties. I work with 30 counties. It happened in the small ones first, and it's kind of crept its way back up. A lot of this has to do, or indirectly has to do with the time the county attorney's office spends on cases. So that cost advisory looks at what all the departments do to support us and reimburses you guys for that. So that's a pretty important component. Yeah, probably the biggest time is juvenile court work. So yeah, we do, you know, we capture every possible expense. You know, we have amortization schedules going left and right. And then this last one, I almost forgot. Scott saw me on the phone earlier because I thought the meeting was at 9. And he saw me in a panic calling somebody and said, would you put this little thing together? This is just a couple pages that won't all the boxes. Really what that shows, the programs that you guys, by giving us this place to work, our workers there make people eligible for programs. And the biggest one, the first one is the food assistance. And that's, you know, probably folks who live in Iowa especially know this. This is the Department of Ag program. You know, this U.S. Department of Agriculture runs the food assistance program. It's called SNAP now. It's been food stamps in the past. But $2 million a month almost comes into Potawatomi County for food assistance. So that's what our workers, that you give us a place to work. They do that kind of work that supports, you know, almost 24 million a year. That family investment, the next set of boxes, that's a very small program. It's about 1.2 million total for the whole year. There's a lifetime limit on that. This goes back to 1996. President Clinton put a lifetime limit on that family investment program, very small. And by far our biggest program is Medicaid, and almost 225 million a year comes into Pot County from Medicaid, nursing homes, hospitals. And the food assistance took a jump about March, no surprise, right? People lose their jobs. There wasn't much of a jump if you follow that across in Medicaid. That stayed pretty steady. It may come up later. You know, I'm surprised that didn't go up. But that's not something we control. We just kind of follow it on the back end. But our workers make people eligible for that. And the back's just a little pie chart, same information. Really for food assistance, about 1 in 7 individuals in Potawatomi County get assistance through the food assistance program, and about 25% through Medicaid. So a much more mundane topic than Matt was working on, but we're staying pretty steady. We appreciate what you give us. Scott had asked before about, you know, the place where we store our records at the old post office building went up for sale. I don't know how that went. I have October 30th, there was a sale. Our lease there is good through about the middle of next year. So we'll see if we're able to move. You know, in the past, the maintenance guys would say, for goodness sakes, don't move the stuff there. Well, we have less there than we used to. You know, it'd be an undertaking for certain. And we'll go into that advisory. We'll work with Jason, we'll work with you, we'll work with Matt on, you know, any lease document.
Matt, did you have a question, Scott?
Well, I was just gonna, is the state got you guys working from remote then?
Yes, we are, there's probably about 20 people in our building, there every day. But overall, probably about 75–80% of our people are working from home. So, and that's across the 30-county area. You know, the people who do, the social workers, it was a little bit easier. You know, they already have laptops, and so they can be more mobile. But we let our income maintenance workers, the people who do this, you know, the eligibility stuff, we send them home with their towers, and, you know, the state's working on, but hasn't released yet, a telework policy. So people would have to request it going forward. We're still working under kind of an emergency. Okay, we're sending you home. And so there's the policy that says people can request to do that hasn't been. And we have some people who want to come back in, and some who don't want to come back in.
So the state is working on a policy?
Telework policy and it'd be an agreement that an employee would sign.
Okay.
You know, it says, I want to work from home. And, you know, and probably doesn't affect your costs as much, but, you know, somebody would have to, for example, provide their own internet. You know, they couldn't say, well, yeah, I want to work from home, but you got to do this and this for me. You know, people sign on, they have to meet some requirements themselves. Be a partner.
Matt, if you take a look at your
Yeah.
revenues for a second with me.
Which, the big one, Tim, or
Yeah,
For this
on
one?
the first page.
first page? Yeah.
Okay. And we've been budgeting about 200,000.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, we brought in 250,
Uh-huh.
286.
Right.
I'm gonna guess we're gonna be about 250 this year.
Uh-huh.
That's, so, and we budgeted 180 last year. We re-estimated this year to be over 200, but you're coming back in at 180.
Yeah, and that's, I think I know what you're asking. Can we, is there something we could do with that? I think we can. If I knew that number, you know, our indirect rate actually for Potawatomi has varied more widely than other counties. I have a spreadsheet that's got numbers so small, I need a magnifying glass. But all 30 counties for the last 10 years, what they've done, most of them are pretty rock steady, but we've varied some. So we've dropped as much as 20% in a year in our indirect rate. So I'm a little, but yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I don't know what exactly, I mean, we could make it 200 and amend it, you know, sometime during that fiscal year, if I saw the indirect rate took a dip again.
I think this is gonna be a tough budget year for us.
Yeah.
I really do. So, you know, if those revenues are tracking, you know, $250,000 a year, we're only budgeting 180. If we bumped it up to 200, I think we'd be safe.
I think we would, and that's
I
something.
mean, that
Tim, we don't
$20,000
have.
is a half a penny on the levy.
Yeah.
Ballparking.
Sure. I'd be perfectly fine with that,
Okay.
truly.
We can make that change for
You
you.
make a change, thanks.
Yep.
So, another question, on the revenues, it's on this, sheet.
Yeah, my cheat sheet there, yeah.
So last year, fiscal year, we ended up being short.
Yeah, I mean, short's one way to, go ahead, I'll let you ask the question.
Expenditures were,
Yeah. I mean, Scott, that number used to be, I really didn't even bring this to you guys before because it's still shocking to me that the revenues outstrip the expenses. You know, that just never used to be the case. I mean, now, in fairness, there's a building sitting over there that's not on the tax rolls because you guys have that for us. I mean, so it's not, this isn't a pure equation. I mean, it's muddy because, you know, that's one of the factors. So, but yeah, that didn't, the revenue, again, that's because the indirect rate, I think, took a dip that year, like 20%. So, I don't have the figure with me, but I can send you
right,
that sheet.
it's weird that in the second quarter and the fourth quarter, those numbers really, unless the third quarter grabbed some of the
It could have been a big,
timing or something, but those numbers were running pretty consistent for the other fiscal years.
yeah, we gather expenses each quarter, we get some from Jason, you know, at the buildings and grounds. It could have been a big ticket item that got held over, you know, their elevator repair, something like that. at some point, memory starts to fail back, and FY20 wasn't that far ago.
Yeah.
And some of these, frankly, like the check might come in, it depends on when it gets booked in.
Right.
I mean, the first quarter check from 20 might have been really the 19, and maybe 2 quarters get paid.
Right,
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
yeah, no, thank you guys.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, I think we're
Yes,
good to go.
thank you, thanks, everyone.
That's pretty good news, man.
Thank, you know, yes,
you
thanks for
your
keeping us safe with all what you guys do with your.
Good to see you.
Well, yes, I'll tell Tom, you guys all said hi, and that he gets docked for not coming
Yeah,
in.
please do.
All right,
Thanks, Dan. We'll make that change on that revenue.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, Lou Bob.
Mine takes 2 minutes.
You didn't figure any salary increase or anything in that, right? Pete, or, Lee?
What?
Oh, thank you.
No, because I'm not supposed to, according to these experts over here.
Thank you.
So look out there,
I
chief.
just wanna make
Just
sure.
look out,
Thank
chief.
Well, thank you.
That
This
was awfully
came out
nice
of my
of
own
you,
budget, which is my own checking account, so. I just wanna sweeten you up before I really blow
Oh,
it.
you lowered the boom on it?
Yeah, I'm gonna really blow it, just in case.
Lee. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, right.
Yours is good.
Yeah, I know. Right? I don't have what to do with it. Look at that. So mine really isn't much different. It never is, but if you wanna look at the interest on our monies, it really went down. And I'm sorry, we've tried. You have to take in consideration that last year, when I budgeted like 600,000 of interest, we made over like 860,000. So add that 200 and some thousand into this year, which we're at probably 150,000 on interest right now. And I haven't got November's, so I'd say by the end of the next fiscal year, we'd be up closer to 400. I'm hoping after January, it's gonna increase a little bit more, but I have no, I have no crystal ball to say what that would be. So that's mostly what really cut my revenues down a little bit. And then I didn't have a tax sale, which I usually add like 20-some thousand into that, which is never really budgeted because we never know how much, we're gonna get on tax sales. So really, I didn't increase much of anything, so. it's
So
not-
the money that's invested for interest,
Uh-huh.
is that pretty much a constant number then?
Right now, it's running, around 30,000 a month. And it was, you could have doubled that last time,
The interest,
yes.
yeah, but the dollar that's in the total how many million is that's invested that's returning 30,000? If you follow me?
Well, 90, million, depending on what, it could be. I think it was like 93, but, each month it goes down depending
Right.
on.
But an average would be in the 80 to 90 million?
Well, no, that's in our peak season, which would be September and stuff. I'd say
Okay.
you're looking at maybe 40 for all the monies for the
Then you
counties.
run
Yeah,
yearly.
Yeah.
That investment's at American National?
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Lee, if I could talk to you just for a second on the revenue. Last year, we budgeted about 1.4 million in revenue.
Yep.
We're, even with the interest earned down,
Right,
you're still on target to meet that.
right.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree. I'm just always scared.
When somebody re-estimated this revenue for you here, was that you?
Me,
Okay.
I just, with all of our motor vehicle and stuff, it just seems like I sent it to Becky and I'm like, well, I could probably increase it a little bit more because it has went up, I think during this whole time, people were buying so many cars and, our revenues kind of did go quite a bit up, and I kind of increased it a little bit, but you know how frugal I am.
I know, but, if your revenue is estimated to be down 300,000, that's 6 cents on the levy.
Well, right, and I could increase my autos up 100,000, I wouldn't probably have any, well, I don't know if I'd go that high. Maybe 50.
Well, in 18-19, you're at 1.6 million,
Mhm.
19-20, 1.6 million.
Yep,
If you look at your year-to-date, you're about 700,000, and that, you still have a few days left that probably aren't even in this estimate, or in this dollar amount. I know everything's a guess, Lee, but
I know.
your budget was 1.4. I think you're gonna be close to that revenue.
Oh, I could say, I probably would be.
Okay, so, we'll take a look at this and maybe revisit it, when we've seen everybody else's. Because right now.
And we get more money towards the end of December. So, once I get that whole December and like January, I would have a better.
So is the interest on investments like your main
Yeah.
hit, I guess?
Well, my motor vehicle is quite a bit too, on registrations, that's those are the two big parts. And, like last year was like
Do you think a lot of that's just
741.
because they haven't done it yet? Like they haven't registered their vehicles yet?
Right.
So there's probably still a ton sitting out there.
December is a big month, for that.
Right.
It seems like, anyway, we're always so busy, towards the end of the year. And then people go and pay property taxes too, because they want that expenditure for their taxes. So we get a bump then too. And I never have that in here because, January would be my, I could do this a lot better in January.
So this is as of November?
Yes,
Okay, so
Right.
we're still.
and you have all those months that I don't even have in here that,
We may not be that far off.
I made a note on the top to rerun this in January, and we can maybe reestimate those revenues.
First of the year.
yeah.
I think we'll bring you back in January and just look again, because I think 300,000, that's. I know you can tweak the numbers.
And I called the bank again and I just, tried to preach, again, like, well, if I'm your biggest person, then, there's gotta be something. So then they were trying to move some into an ICS deposit account to raise our interest. And then they had another idea that they were gonna do too. And I said, well, whatever you gotta do, you do. So, they're working on it too, to maybe get a little bit more.
Well, they get charges because they're carrying so much more that it's hard for them to, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
What else? It doesn't show on here, what do you get in 2/10?
It was about,
How come you can't put the future wages in, the increase?
because we don't know.
They haven't been decided by
They
the
haven't
board
been
yet.
decided yet what
Okay,
that would
I
be.
thought it was, I'm
No.
sorry.
So we have all the departments right now, just what they know for step and grades, and budget it straight across status quo until a decision's made. And then we add that in.
Okay.
You'll get to be part of that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Lee, I think that doesn't look, as I expected, yours is all.
You mean to tell me you're giving me your blessing? I can't believe it.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, I thought
We're
that's what you
gonna have
said.
you back in January. I appreciate your efforts on that.
Thanks for coming in so
Well,
early.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
What's
Good job, Lee.
Yeah, my hands quit sweating. Yeah, right.
Merry Christmas.
So,
Wow.
do we need a motion to approve this Low Sales Alliance contribution for $2,000?
Yeah.
So moved.
Got a motion,
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this one? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. All right, let's take a minute. Let's do 5 minutes. And then can you let her know, just give us 5 minutes and we'll kind of
How many
regroup.
closed sessions we got?
We are gonna strike the closed session for Sheriff Anchor.
Okay.
That is no longer going to occur.
Oh, okay,
So
that's good.
you have someone out there, right? For 11?
Last I checked, he wasn't here yet. I'll take a few.
Let's just take a few minutes to take it regroup.
We got-
Are any of you planning to be here